They expect you to break. They expect you to shout. They expect you to collapse into the predictable little performance weak men put on when their pride is wounded. But you do not. Because silence is not surrender. Silence is strategy. Niccolo Machiavelli once wrote, "Never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception, and silence is deception's sharpest mask." When someone disrespects you, the ordinary response is noise, yelling, defending, rushing to prove worth. That is the instinct of prey. But predators? They wait. They study. They let the insult hang like a storm cloud until the room feels heavy. This is not kindness. This is not restraint. This is control. Control they did not know you had. Control they cannot break. Control that turns their insult into a boomerang, returning to wound them. A man who reacts instantly is transparent, predictable, and weak. A man who waits, who holds the insult in the air like a fly trapped in a web, is dangerous. Patience is the blade hidden under your coat. It is sharp, silent, and inevitable. Every breath you take after someone disrespects you is not a retreat. It is reloading. Not reloading a gun, reloading a strategy. Because when someone disrespects you, they hand you a weapon. They just don't realize you know how to use it. This is the point where you stop being prey. This is the point where you stop being nice in the way sheep are nice. From here forward, you are winter in human form, vast, quiet, merciless. And nothing freezes faster than arrogance. The weak instinct. When insulted, the weak feel a surge of pride. They want to strike back, to prove themselves, to demand respect. But Machiavelli warned that power is not lost in a single blow, it leaks away in careless reactions. Every time you defend yourself emotionally, you waste energy you didn't need to spend. You burn credibility, you burn composure, you burn control. That is why you do not bark. That is why you do not bleed where they can see it. Instead, you become still. Think of yourself as a chess player facing a loud opponent. He slams his pieces, he talks big, he wants you to match his volume. You do not. You let him think he's winning while you quietly position for the kill. The weak think revenge is about reaction. The strong know revenge is about repositioning. Mini story. The silent CEO. A rising executive once faced public humiliation. A rival mocked him during a board meeting, expecting retaliation. He didn't flinch. He didn't answer. He simply turned a page in his notebook. Weeks later, at promotion season, that same rival was blindsided. The executive calmly revealed, documented failures, and hidden mistakes. The board turned against the loud man. The quiet one was promoted. His silence was not retreat, it was a trap. That is Machiavellian silence in action, patience weaponized. Control the frame. If you react emotionally, they own the frame. They dictate the terms. And once they set the terms, you are trapped in their game. But if you control the frame, you decide whether the fight even happens. This is why you wait. This is why you study. This is why you record. Machiavelli advised that men must either be flattered or destroyed, nothing in between. Your patience allows you to see which they deserve. Flatter those who can be useful. Crush those who are a danger. Never confuse the two. This requires discipline. And discipline is the currency of dominance. Turning disrespect into leverage. Here is the hidden leverage. While they believe they bruised you, you are watching, gathering, positioning. They think they drew blood. What they really did was place themselves under your observation. And people under observation begin to slip. They make mistakes, small at first, then larger, then fatal. All because they thought you weren't paying attention, but you were. Always. That is when your power multiplies. You are no longer reacting inside their petty drama. You are the architect of the board itself. And when you move, it is not to win an argument, it is to end their ability to challenge you again. This is the Machiavellian truth. The man who can wait controls the terms, and the man who controls the terms wins without lifting a finger. So remember this and etch it into your mind with the ruthlessness of cold steel. My calm is the weight that crushes them. The challenge. Have you ever turned silence into your sharpest weapon? Or do you still feel the urge to bark back when insulted? Comment below and be honest. Your answer will tell you how far along the ruthless path you've walked. Cliffhanger. But silence is only the beginning. In part 2, you will see how Machiavelli turns patience into a noose, one that enemies tighten around their own necks while believing they're safe. Patience is not passive. Patience is preparation. The world mistakes waiting for weakness. But Machiavelli warned that time itself is a weapon. Whosoever desires constant success must change his conduct with the times. In silence, you are not doing nothing. You are sharpening. You are collecting data, allies, and leverage while your enemy drowns in his own noise. The fatal mistake of the arrogant. Arrogant men always underestimate silence. They think your stillness means surrender. They believe the absence of immediate retaliation is proof you are weak. But arrogance is predictable, and predictability is fatal. When you do not react, they feel safe enough to overreach. They mock louder. They plot bolder. They step further and further onto thin ice without hearing it crack beneath them. That is the essence of Machiavellian patience. Enemies destroy themselves faster when you remove resistance. If you fight them head-on, you unify them. If you vanish into silence, you divide them. Their arrogance grows unchecked, and arrogance always accelerates collapse. Mini-story: the politician's fall. Consider the politician who mocked his quiet rival during debates, believing silence was weakness. The rival endured every insult, saying little, smiling often. Months later, scandals emerged not by chance, but by design. Financial missteps, shady donors, broken promises. Each revelation landed like a hammer. The loud politician fell in disgrace. The quiet rival rose to power. The silence had not been surrender. It had been surveillance. That is Machiavelli's patience. Let arrogance build the rope, then watch the man hang himself. Psychological starvation. Here is the tactic. After disrespect, you starve them. No public retaliation, no private gossip, no back-channel whispers. You treat them like an empty chair in a locked room. This is psychological starvation, and it is lethal, because nothing terrifies the arrogant more than being ignored by the person they wanted to provoke. Your silence becomes a mirror, and in that mirror, they see themselves, and they rarely like what they find. While they wrestle their own reflection, you work in the shadows. You sharpen skills. You expand your network. You build leverage. You rise to a level their noise can never reach. Machiavelli advised rulers to appear merciful, faithful, and humane, but to act with the opposite when survival demanded it. Outwardly calm, inwardly ruthless. Every slight, every lie, every attempt to undermine you, recorded, stored, waiting. The ledger of power. Think of a courtroom. One man shouts, the other presents evidence. Who wins? When the moment comes, you do not argue. You simply present the facts, sharpened by months of patience. Facts land harder than fists. By then, the battlefield is already yours. You didn't chase it. You built it beneath their feet. That is how you collapse an enemy without lifting a finger. They choke on the rope they tied themselves. Remember this. Their mistakes carve my throne. Precision, the kill. But patience is only the prelude. Precision is the kill. Up until now, you have been calculating, letting them pile mistakes like dry wood. But Machiavelli was clear. The wise prince does not strike when angry. He strikes when the blow will end the matter entirely. That is the discipline. Your strike must not look emotional. If it looks petty, people dismiss it. But if it looks calculated, justified, inevitable, then people call it fate. And no one argues with fate. Finding the seam, you never attack a man's strength. You attack the seam between pride and weakness. The coworker who mocked you, his weakness might be a secret failure he's desperate to bury. The rival who insulted you, his weakness might be the fragile approval of others. You don't smash the armor, you press the crack, slowly, invisibly. Redirect opportunities away from him, cut his influence, expose just enough truth for others to doubt him. Doubt spreads like disease. And once doubt infects his circle, his allies finish the destruction for you. Better feared than loved. Machiavelli wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." Why? Because love fades with circumstance, but fear survives. When your calculated strike lands, it is not simply punishment, it is instruction. It teaches your enemies and everyone watching that disrespect carries a cost. That lesson plants fear in their memory, and fear grows roots. But here is the discipline most men lack. After you strike, you vanish again into silence. No gloating, no victory lap, because the mystery of your limits terrifies more than the memory of your retaliation. They now know you can hit, but they no longer know when you will strike again. That uncertainty is more frightening than the strike itself. Etch this into your mind. One strike is eternity. Comment prompt. Have you ever seen someone ruin themselves because they underestimated silence? Share it below, because stories of arrogance collapsing are the best lessons in power. Cliffhanger. But the strike is not the end. Most men stop there. Machiavelli would call that a mistake. Because power is not only about victory, it is about owning the aftermath. In Part 3, you will learn how to turn one strike into permanent dominance, how to build loyalty, aura, and fear so strong that no enemy dares to rise again. A predator does not stop after the kill. The true predator controls the territory after the kill. Most men fail here. Their revenge ends at the strike. They savor the hit, boast about the blow, then leave the door open for retaliation. That is sloppy. That is dangerous. Machiavelli would call it a half measure, and half measures are the death of rulers. If you teach someone they can recover from your blow, you invite them to return stronger. The strike must not only defeat them, it must erase their ability to fight again. This is post-strike dominance. Controlling the aftermath post-strike dominance begins with perception control. After your retaliation, you do not brag, you do not confirm, you do not explain, you let whispers spread. Mystery is more powerful than confession. When people cannot measure your strength, they invent their own stories, and their imagination will always be darker, sharper, more terrifying than the truth. Then you elevate. Every visible win after the strike, a new partnership, a promotion, a public success, sends one message. Not only did I survive, I advanced. You did not just withstand the storm, you built a fortress in it. And that freezes future challengers in their tracks. Remember this, I turned survival into conquest. Mini story. The Mafia boss. A young boss once inherited a fragile criminal empire. A rival challenged him openly, mocking his inexperience. The boss retaliated once with precision. The rival vanished overnight. But here's what mattered. The boss didn't brag. He simply grew stronger. New businesses, new soldiers, new money. His silence was terrifying. Within months, nobody questioned his rule, not because of the strike alone, but because after the strike, he made his power look inevitable. That is Machiavelli's law. Striking is not enough. You must own the aftermath, engineering loyalty. But control is not only about enemies, it is about allies. A king without loyal lieutenants is just a man in a crown. Machiavelli warned, rulers are not destroyed by distant enemies, but by those closest to them. That is why your next step is engineering loyalty so deep that betrayal becomes suicide. Loyalty is not bought. It is cultivated. Money can be outbid, fear can be resisted, but mutual benefit, that is the cement of empires. You find people whose survival is tied to yours, people who win when you win. These are not friends, they are investments. You give them value no one else can: access, knowledge, protection. In return, they become extensions of your will. Machiavelli advised princes to empower ministers so they depended entirely on him. You must do the same. Without you, they fall. With you, they rise. But here is the cold truth. Loyalty must be tested. You create small, controlled chances for betrayal. Then you watch. Those who pass, you elevate. Those who fail, you remove quietly before they dream of testing you in matters that matter. The living shield. When you build such a circle, you are no longer just one man. You are a node of power, protected by a living shield. Enemies now hesitate. To attack you, they must wonder not only about you, but about those who surround you. A silent circle of loyal operators ready to defend you without hesitation. That perception alone is deterrence. And loyalty extends your reach. Your allies speak for you in rooms you never enter. They defend your name in conversations you never hear. They intercept threats before they ever touch you. This is how empires survive, not by endless battles, but by building systems that defend themselves. Never forget this. My alliances are blades they never see. The aura of fear. But loyalty alone is not enough. You must also cultivate the aura. Machiavelli understood this. He wrote that a ruler's greatest weapon is not his sword, but the belief that the sword is always within reach. Fear is more efficient than force, because fear works without action. It works when you are silent. It works when you are absent. But fear must be engineered, and it is engineered through unpredictability. If your enemies can read you, they can prepare for you. If they cannot, they imagine. And imagination always paints you larger, darker, and more dangerous than reality. How to build the aura. Step 1. Control your appearance. Always composed. No frantic words. No visible stress. If you respond to disrespect with the same calm as before, they wonder what you're planning. That wondering is the seed of fear. Step 2. Strategic absence. Decline invitations. Withdraw suddenly. Remove access without warning. When you disappear, they question their standing with you. The unknown is your weapon. Step 3. Precision signals. A stare held too long, a name dropped casually, a compliment that reveals how much you know. Not threats, reminders that you see them fully. Machiavelli said, a prince must be both fox and lion. The fox to detect traps, the lion to terrify wolves. Silent intimidation is the fox's art. Over time, this aura grows. You'll notice it when voices lower as you walk in, when eyes flicker to you before they speak, when even enemies avoid your name. That is not respect. That is survival instinct. Self-reinforcing power. Once the aura exists, you no longer maintain it. Others maintain it for you. They whisper your stories. They exaggerate your past strikes. They warn others not to cross you. At that point, you have achieved psychological dominance. No fights, no shouting, just presence. Burn this into your mind. My stillness terrifies more than noise. Comment, prompt. Have you ever seen someone so calm, so unreadable, that their silence was more intimidating than a threat? Share it, because those are the moments Machiavelli would call true power, cliffhanger. But aura and loyalty are not the end. They are only the armor. In Part 4, you will see how reputation becomes a weapon, how to vanish strategically, erase enemies without lifting a hand, and freeze them out until they disappear from history itself. Your reputation is your shadow. It enters the room before you do. It whispers when you are absent, and it lingers after you've gone. Most men drift through life hoping their reputation stays positive. that is gambling. Machiavelli understood reputation must be crafted as deliberately as a fortress. He wrote, "Men in general judge more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see but few can feel." Meaning, people believe appearances more than reality. If they believe you are capable, disciplined, and dangerous to cross, it doesn't matter whether they've ever seen you act. That belief alone is enough. This is the art of weaponizing your name. Forging ruthless reputation. Step 1. Curate the narrative. Show results, not process. Let people see victories, never the sweat. When they don't know how you did it, they assume you can do it again in anything. Step 2. Public wins, private strikes. Make your victories undeniable. Let your retaliation appear invisible. When rivals collapse, let it look like misfortune. Suspicion is more powerful than proof. Step 3. Frame defeats. Even losses can reinforce your aura. Machiavelli taught that setbacks, if framed as chosen sacrifices or calculated withdrawals, display wisdom. Every scar becomes proof of endurance. Step 4. Plant stories. Whisper truths strategically. Give allies anecdotes that subtly amplify your capability. Let these stories spread without your hand attached. The strongest reputations are built on rumors others believe they uncovered themselves. Do this, and your reputation becomes armor, a name that cuts the air before you arrive. Remember this: my name sharpens the air before I arrive. Mini-story: the executive who vanished. A powerful executive once humiliated a colleague in meetings, mocking him as irrelevant. The colleague didn't retaliate. He went silent. Then, one day, the executive's name started disappearing. His projects were reassigned. Invitations skipped him. His calls went unanswered. Within a year, he wasn't fired, he was forgotten. The colleague hadn't shouted, he had simply starved him of oxygen. That is the freeze-out, the cleanest kill in power games. Strategic disappearance. Machiavelli taught that fear grows in the absence of information. When you vanish, you force others to invent explanations, and their imagination always paints you more dangerous than you are. Strategic disappearance is not running away, it is withdrawing supply. The rules are simple: disappear at your peak. If you vanish under pressure, it looks like retreat. Disappear when strong, so your absence feels like design. Leave traces, not explanations. Whispers of new alliances, glimpses of projects, rumors of expansion. You let them wonder if you are building something massive or watching them from the shadows. Return with leverage. When you reappear, you must have advanced. A new success, a bigger resource, a stronger position. Your absence is then confirmed as a move, not a retreat. This is how silence becomes art. Etch this line: when I vanish, the shadows serve me. The freeze-out, but sometimes even silence is not enough. Defeat is temporary, erasure is permanent. The freeze-out is Machiavelli's quietest form of destruction. Power without open war, victory without confrontation. Here is how it works. Erase their name. You don't speak it, you don't deny them. In your world, they cease to exist. Control the oxygen. You don't sabotage directly. You simply ensure their name never appears in the right rooms. Projects bypass them. Invitations exclude them. The phone stops ringing. This is not spectacle, it's absence. And absence is lethal. Relevance is a flame. It must be fed. You don't extinguish it, you stop giving wood. Slowly, it dies. Machiavelli warned men should be either treated generously or destroyed. The freeze-out is destruction disguised as forgetting. The result? They still walk, still talk, still try. But nobody listens. That is erasure without touching. Repeat it. I bury them under their own silence. Modern parallels. In business, this is how companies erase competitors. They don't declare war. They dominate networks until rivals are irrelevant. In politics, it's the candidate who disappears from coverage. Not defeated, simply ignored, forgotten. In relationships, it is the coldest tactic of all. Betrayal answered not with rage, but with absence so total the betrayer becomes invisible. Everywhere the rule is the same. The freeze-out is power disguised as emptiness. Comment. Prompt. Have you ever seen someone disappear from relevance not defeated, but forgotten? Share it below. These stories are the essence of Machiavellian erasure. Cliffhanger. But erasure is not the final stage. Silence, aura, reputation, all of it must be transformed into permanence. In Part V, you will see how to consolidate victory into empire, to sit on a throne no enemy dares to touch. Revenge is not the end. The end is consolidation. Most men think the story ends when their enemy collapses. But Machiavelli warns, victory without consolidation is temporary. It invites rivals to rise again. A wise ruler does not stop at victory. He cements his dominance so deeply that pulling him out would mean tearing the ground itself apart. This is the art of making power permanent, the fortress of authority. The first step of consolidation is anchoring authority publicly. Every achievement, every alliance, every visible signal of your power must be displayed in a way that looks permanent. You don't just recover, you expand. You don't just survive, you dominate. This is psychological territory marking. The world must see and believe that you are not to be tested. In ancient Rome, victorious generals paraded through the streets to announce that their dominance was absolute. In the modern world, your parade is your reputation, your results, your alliances. If you don't mark territory after victory, someone will test you again. Remember this: I build castles from the storms meant to drown me. Mini-story. The Emperor's consolidation. After a brutal civil war, Octavian defeated his enemies. Most men would have stopped there. But he renamed himself Augustus, rebuilt Rome's institutions, rewarded allies, erased rivals from memory, and turned a fragile republic into an empire that lasted centuries. He didn't just win battles. He consolidated them into permanence. That is the Machiavellian throne, not a seat, but a fortress. Rewarding loyalty. The second step of consolidation is fortifying your inner circle. By now, they've seen what happens when someone crosses you. They've watched you endure in silence, strike with precision, and control the aftermath. This is the moment to reward them strategically. You give them more access, more stake in your reign. The more their survival depends on you, the harder they will fight to protect you. Machiavelli wrote that a prince should make his ministers dependent so they could never stand without him. You must do the same. Your circle must not merely like you, they must need you. And in return, they become your armor. Never forget this. My circle is my fortress, and their loyalty is my crown. Erasing the enemy. The third step of consolidation is cutting ties completely. You don't debate them. You don't acknowledge them. You don't share space with them. In your world, they no longer exist. In history, rulers erased their rivals from records, chiseling names off monuments and burning scrolls. Why? Because memory itself is dangerous. You must do the same. Erasure is the final burial. And when asked about them, you answer with silence. That silence says, they no longer exist in my universe. Repeat this line. I bury names deeper than graves. Maintaining the aura. The final step of consolidation is maintaining the aura that carried you here. You keep composure absolute. Presence scarce but sharp. The legend of your patience, your strike, your erasure, let it grow unchecked. Do not confirm it. Do not deny it. Mystery is the cheapest and strongest form of power. Machiavelli's final lesson: power is maintained not just by the fear of punishment, but by the certainty of it. Everyone must believe that crossing you is not just risky, it is fatal to their ambitions. When that belief becomes universal, you don't need to defend yourself. The environment defends you. Your network, your aura, your reputation, your loyal circle, they become the fortress no enemy can breach without self-destruction. At this level, you are no longer reacting to threats. You are the reason threats do not appear. That is the Machiavellian throne, the ruthless crown. Understand this. You are not simply playing the game anymore. You are designing the board. You are moving the pieces. You are shaping the rules. Your silence has become a weapon. Your patience has become a trap. Your precision has become a legend. Your alliances have become an empire. The throne is not a chair. It is an aura, a network, a fortress of silence and certainty. And when you reach this level, people no longer fear only what you did, they fear what you might do. Remember this: I am the storm they kneel to. Comment prompt: do you want to be the man who fights endless petty battles, or the one who sits on a throne no rival dares to approach? Comment below. Your choice reveals the kind of power you truly seek. Final seal. Most men spend their lives trapped in noise. The ruthless few rise above it. This channel is for the ruthless, those who dare to see the world as it is, not as they wish it to be. Before you go, subscribe to Ruthless Psychology, because here we do not play at power, we master it.